Long, long ago, way back in the year 2020, I don't know about in Europe, but here in America, there were these amazing, fantastical stores where you could buy anything you wanted for just $1. That's right, $1. But fast forward just 4 years to today in a post-pandemic world with sky-high inflation, what can you buy now for $1? Well, absolutely nothing. That is, unless you're Airbus. Because Airbus just bought an entire company for just $1. And not only that, but they also received $600 million in change for their troubles. But remarkably, throughout history, there have been other huge and notable things that were bought and sold for just $1. And incredibly, Airbus has been involved in 2 of these unthinkable sales. So we're going to get to all that in just a minute. But first, well, it's official. In a deal considered to be a win-win for Boeing and Spirit AeroSystems, Spirit and Boeing officially announced on July 1 that Spirit AeroSystems has entered into a definitive merger agreement under which the Boeing company will acquire Spirit for $37.25 per share in Boeing common stock. At $37.25 per share, this represents an equity value of approximately $4.7 billion and an enterprise value of approximately $8.3 billion, including Spirit's last reported net debt. So Spirit, which used to be Boeing, is once again an all-Boeing company. But wait a minute, where does this acquisition leave Airbus? Because Spirit AeroSystems also manufactured many fuselage, wings, and parts for Airbus as well. But if this deal is a win-win for Boeing, it was a true victory for Airbus, because Airbus went back to the dollar store. Because in order for Boeing to make this deal, they needed Airbus's help. So following Boeing's acquisition of Spirit AeroSystems, Airbus entered into a binding term agreement with Spirit, in which Airbus will acquire its A220 wings and mid-fuselage production facility in Northern Ireland and Morocco, and also the A220 pylon facility in Wichita in the US, and the A350 fuselage sections in the US and France. But how much did Airbus have to pay for this massive acquisition? Well, like the title says, just $1. And this isn't the first time Airbus pulled off a dollar store gangster move like this. Almost 7 years after picking up Bombardier Incorporated Trouble C-Series aircraft program for next to nothing, they also paid a symbolic $1 Canadian for its 51% share in the aircraft Airbus rebranded the A220. I did an entire video on that purchase and I'll post a link down below. But unlike the Bombardier C-Series, where Airbus took on the financial responsibility of manufacturing the new A220, in this recent $1 purchase of Spirit AeroSystems, Spirit was in such bad financial shape and debt that for their $1 investment, Airbus will also be compensated a whopping cash payment of $600 million to cover losses already experienced by Spirit on Airbus manufacturing. So in the end, Boeing spent over $8 billion to reacquire Spirit AeroSystems to maintain quality control of its troubled 737 MAX. However, in so doing, Boeing also through the Spirit purchase paid Airbus $600 million to take its manufacturing back into the Airbus fold. So once again, Airbus comes out on top to retain its title as the #1 commercial jet maker in the world, while Boeing finally hopes it can get its act together and fix its litany of defects with its troubled MAX program. Okay, so that got me thinking, and while this is an aviation story, I thought it would be fun to take a look back in history to see some other monumental business deals that were also transacted for just $1. In 1886, the Coca-Cola Company was born when Dr. John S. Pemberton created a tasty drink that is still the most popular drink on earth till this day, with the most recognizable trademark in history. However, what many people don't know is that for many years, Coca-Cola was only available as a fountain drink because Pemberton was adamant that this was the best and only way to enjoy his soft drink creation. However, Pemberton would eventually sell Coca-Cola to Asa G. Candler, who purchased the majority stake. But Candler had a quite business-savvy nephew who advised him to consider selling the drink in bottles. But Candler also turned down the idea and stuck to Pemberton's original Coca-Cola as a fountain drink only idea. However, later when Candler was again approached by businessmen who were interested in bottling the Coca-Cola drink, he was convinced that the bottling idea was so stupid that Candler sold the Coca-Cola bottling rights for just $1. And not only that, he never bothered to collect the $1. And well, the rest of course is history, as Coke remains the most recognizable brand and most popular beverage of all time. Newsweek is an American weekly news magazine that was acquired by the Washington Post Company in 1961 and remained in its portfolio until 2010. However, on the verge of bankruptcy, the Post decided to offload Newsweek to Sidney Harman. It was sold for $1 on the condition that Harman would take on the magazine's considerable debt. However, much to WAPO's dismay, Newsweek is currently one of the most popular online American news outlets today. The life-saving diabetes drug insulin was discovered by Sir Frederick G. Banting at the University of Toronto in 1921 and was later purified by James B. Collop. And insulin remains one of the greatest medical breakthroughs in history, as millions of lives would be saved by its discovery. It was on January 11, 1922 that insulin was first used to treat a person with diabetes with remarkable results. However, Frederick Banting refused to put his name on the patent because he felt it was unethical for a doctor to profit from a medical discovery that could potentially save millions of lives, as this would reduce the number of people who would have access to the medication. So Banting's co-inventors, James Collop and Charles Best, sold the insulin patent to the University of Toronto for a mere $1. However, the sad irony of this situation is that Banting, Collop, and Best are sadly disappointed and frankly ashamed, as their intention did not play out the way they wanted it to. Because today, especially in the US, the sale of insulin has been hijacked by Big Pharma and has become so expensive that many diabetics can't afford the drug, causing many to reduce or even skip doses because of the cost. James Cameron is arguably one of the world's most iconic movie directors, writers, and producers. However, times weren't always so good for Cameron. Early in his career as an unknown director, it was hard for him to find financing for his projects. So when Cameron needed an investor to produce his future blockbuster movie, The Terminator, he sold the rights to the movie for just $1 on one condition: that only he could direct the film. But what is most amazing about this particular dollar sale is that many studios loved the idea of the Terminator and were willing to pay a reasonable price for the scripts, but none of them would give Cameron the chance to direct the movie. But of course, Cameron eventually found a studio that agreed to his terms. The movie was made in 1984, and the rest is history. And James Cameron, well, he's a billionaire today. The sale of TV Guide magazine is another surprisingly notable item that was sold for just $1, which was how much Open Gate Capital acquired the business for from Microvision in 2008. Ironically, at the time of the sale, the individual cost of the magazine was $2.99, yet the entire business was sold for $1, which is less than half the price of one magazine. In fact, TV Guide seller Microvision even loaned Open Gate Capital $9.5 million to hit the ground running, similar to the Airbus Spirit deal today. And of course, continuing with our $1 success stories, TV Guide went on to be one of the best-selling and profitable periodicals of all time. The Metallurgical Laboratory Met Lab was one of the most important research facilities of the Manhattan Project. The scientists of the Met Lab had the technical expertise to design and produce the much-needed element for the Manhattan Project, but construction and management on an industrial scale required an outside contractor. Specifically, they needed one that had the expertise to carry out the enrichment of plutonium on the scale of the Manhattan Project. And of course, the Dupont company was the natural choice for the project at the outbreak of World War II, as the company was one of the nation's largest and most experienced industrial operations at the time. However, there was a big problem. Dupont as a company was still reeling from the scandal caused by the allegations that it profiteered during World War I as Dupont was one of an estimated 150 American companies that provided Nazi Germany with patents, technology, and material resources that proved crucial to the German war effort. Seeing that another allegation would not be good for its image, the Dupont company agreed to be the primary contractor for plutonium-related work, but the company would not receive more than $1 for every one of the services it rendered. And Dupont's theory was correct, as history would eventually be kind to the company for their patriotic contribution to the ending of World War II. Ruth Graves Wakefield was a chef who's best known for inventing one of the most iconic, uniquely American desserts in history, and that of course was the chocolate chip cookie. Wakefield was born in 1903. She was a college-educated chef, a dietitian, a teacher, a business owner, and cookbook author. Wakefield and her husband also opened a tourist lodge called the Toll House Inn, where she cooked and prepared all the food served at the inn. However, Ruth quickly gained a reputation for inventive and uniquely delicious desserts. But one day, Wakefield accidentally stumbled upon the chocolate chip cookie while working on a different recipe that found chunks of unmelted chocolate still in the mix. However, this failure was quickly deemed a happy accident indeed, because as a result, the chocolate chip cookie was officially born. And the chocolate chip cookie's popularity really skyrocketed during World War II, when soldiers stationed overseas received and shared care packages containing the new tasty treat. So Wakefield gave the Nestle company the rights to her recipe for just $1. However, it wasn't a total loss for Ruth, as she received a lifetime supply of Nestle's chocolate in return. Oh yeah, I'd make that deal. And finally, the Star Wars franchise of course includes movies, cartoons, books, television series, comic books, theme park attractions, and merchandise that have an estimated value of nearly $70 billion. It all began, of course, as a small 1977 film that quickly snowballed into a worldwide pop culture phenomenon, and eventually went on to become one of the highest-grossing media franchises of all time. The Star Wars franchise made its creator George Lucas a multi-billionaire, and it also made Disney a ton of money that continues to grow till this day. But what few people know is that in 1983, the National Public Radio, or NPR, wanted to turn Star Wars into a radio drama, so it approached George Lucas for the rights. Well, Lucas was a big fan of NPR himself, so what did Lucas do? Of course, he sold the rights to NPR for just $1 little. But considering the net worth of the franchise today, it's not a stretch to say that this may have been one of the most expensive things ever sold for $1. So that's just a few of the history of $1 deals ever made. But I'm sure there are many more, and I bet you know some of them. So be sure and let me know down below. And for you aviation purists out there who may complain this wasn't an all aviation video, sometimes you just have to take a break from the jet fuel and stop and smell the chocolate chip cookies. And with that, thanks for joining me. And until next time we meet in the air, yeah, this is Maximus.